Friends, the long-awaited Osmo Action 6 will be dropping in the United States on November 18th. However, in China, it has already launched. So we have official specs of this new flagship action camera from DJI. And after reviewing it for the past couple of hours, I wanted to bring you guys along my thought process in possibly purchasing this new action camera. And as per usual in this channel, we do not drip feed you information so that you have to stick to the end to get the most pertinent details about the things that we are discussing. I'm going to move up front what I think are the most impactful details to consider when you're purchasing or upgrading to this, but kind of skipping the more boring features because as we know, with newer generations of cameras, of course the sensor will be bigger. Of course, there's going to be some slight improvement of current features like battery life, stabilization, etc., etc. I want to concentrate on the features that the normal beginner to prosumer will benefit a lot from because there's more of those people rather than the pros. When you're a pro, you know what you're looking for in terms of gear, you know how you're going to use your gear, so it's more of just whether it fits your workflow and or your budget. So let's get this started. Should you buy the DJI Osmo Action 6? I have my personal criteria in terms of upgrading from one generation of cameras or gear to another, and typically I do not like upgrading from one generation to the next. I like skipping generations. The improvement from generation to generation, because technology is so good nowadays, it becomes very, very minute. And not all of us gets to maximize the current gear that we have. And I try to make sure that every piece of gear that I purchase, I run ragged, I use all the time, or can drastically improve my workflow. So with that in mind, it takes a lot for me to say that yes, you should upgrade to the DJI Osmo Action 6, even if you have the Action 5 Pro or the Action 4. And this is already factoring the fact that visually, with the few samples that we have of DJI Osmo Action 6 footage, only true pixel peepers will be able to see the improvement in image quality. The thing that I think is not necessarily a game changer, but a giant convenience in the Osmo Action 6 compared to the Action 5 Pro is the format of the sensor. Yes, the sensor size is a little bit bigger, and with a bigger sensor, great, it's better at low light. That's also a factor, but I think the clincher for me is that it is a newly designed square format. And from that square format, it'll be a lot easier for people to crop into various aspect ratios depending on what type of footage you need. It's easier for you to do 16:9 for YouTube long form videos or 9:16 for short form TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And yes, there is a 4:3 format in the Action 5 Pro, even in the Action 4, but the previous generation's 4:3 format is cropping into a rectangular sensor. So essentially, you're trimming off the sides in order to have a format that you can further trim into a vertical or a horizontal format. The Osmo Action 6, the sensor was designed so that every single format will maximize the size of that sensor. And that format not only gives you a benefit in terms of cropping and reframing, but it also allows for better stabilization of the action camera. So that's why this camera also has Rocksteady 3.0. So their newest version, maximizing this new sensor. So the brains of the Action 6 can take advantage of that new format and make your footage more stable if you need it to be. The other feature that I think is extremely interesting and useful is that this is the first time that DJI and, if I'm not mistaken, an action camera has a variable aperture. And it is confirmed that it is from 2 to 4, giving you depth of field flexibility, low light flexibility, but also if you're in sunnier conditions, you can have ostensibly more things in focus if you try to use your aperture at 4.0. I like that flexibility because the Action 4 and the Action 5 are both fixed at 2.8, and having a couple of more stops down at f2.0 gives you a little bit more depth of field when you frame your shot correctly. So for those people that are trying to make their shots a little bit more cinematic, I don't know why you do it in an action camera, but you have that extra feature now. So that's another plus why I think upgrading to the Osmo Action 6 is worthwhile. And lastly, in terms of design and form factor, on the aesthetics, I'm very happy that DJI made the front-facing logos of this camera in black. So it is less conspicuous than the previous models where you can see the Action version 4 is in silver and quite large. Same with the Action 5 Pro. Kind of stands out. I'm just not a big fan of being a vehicle of other brands to be their advertisement. So the Action 6, they made that into black as well. So that's very, very minute factor. But the other thing in terms of design and form factor is looking into the accessories that is suggested with the DJI Osmo Action 6 in their adventure combo, where you have the 3 batteries and the Action charger. It is also backwards compatible. So I am very happy that the batteries and the battery chargers for the Action 6 can still be used by the Action 5 and Action 4, meaning people that already have previous versions of the accessories can still use that, and they can still upgrade to their suggested newer extended battery that has a little bit more capacity so that you can have function for up to 4 hours with the Action camera. But that's just a little bit of goodwill that I really like about DJI for this particular version. Even if you're upgrading from a fairly new camera, I think the new sensor format, which will allow you to do vertical and horizontal content a lot easier with better stabilization and better in low light, is enough to recoup the additional cost that you will incur if in case you sell off your Action 5 Pro. If you have a DJI Osmo Action 4 and you want to upgrade, that's a bit better as well. But do not get me wrong. The Action 4, the Action 5 are still stellar action cameras. I could still use the Action 4 in the gigs that I use it for. And I use my Action cameras in events at night indoors. So those are not actually the ideal situation to use Action cameras for. So this is by no means saying like you have to upgrade to the Action 6. If you want to, it is worthwhile upgrading to, but you don't need to. So let's close out with the rumored prices in the United States. It's slated to be around $349 to $399. So I'm expecting somewhere in between, maybe let's say $379 for a standard combo and maybe $399, $409, $429 for an adventure combo. So this way, like if you have the previous adventure combo, you can just get the standard combo for the Action 6 and you could still swap the batteries, use the same selfie stick and whatnot. So that's the good thing about this upgrade. It's not going to gorge you and force you to upgrade the accessories as well. You can just concentrate on the camera body. I know that was a little bit more than a couple of minutes. I'm just really passionate about these types of action cameras because I legitimately use them every month filming live performance gigs of my friends. But if you're still watching, thank you very much. I'm Jong Clemente. I am a camera and fun enthusiast based in Brooklyn, New York by way of Manila, Philippines. And now we can go a little bit deeper into additional features and specs of the DJI Action 6 pre-US launch so you can decide whether you're going to get this unit for yourself. Let's run down the major features. First, the sensor size and type. Again, it is bigger than the previous version. Now we are 1/1.1 inch sensor square format. That's a significant jump from the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. We have the variable lens aperture that you can twist from 2 to 4, giving you more control over what type of depth of field you'd like with your shot. During the course of the year, the rumors has always been that this was going to be an 8K camera, but officially it is not. So from my research, the only 8K action camera that is suggested by a lot of people will be the Ace Pro 2. If you need that much size of sensor, maybe you like cropping into a lot of things, you have to go to the Insta360 side. But for my use case, in terms of the videos that I make, I don't tend to crop at all. So 4K is fine by me. In the slow-mo feature, 4K 120 FPS, while the Action 5 Pro and the Action 4 is 1080 240 FPS. So if you need a lot of slow-mo, any of those cameras will work. Also, as mentioned, the stabilization and tracking has improved again on Osmo Action 6 with the Rocksteady 3.0, which maximizes the capabilities of that larger and more square format. A lot more data in your footage so that the brains of the camera can calculate better horizon for the shot. The design and form factor, not a lot has changed. It still has the dual screen format where you have a little bit of a front-facing screen, a back-facing screen. It is just a slightly more refined body, a slightly bigger actually, but again, happy to note that The batteries in the Action series of camera can still work from the 4 to the 5 to the 6, so that's some savings there. The listed battery or runtime is similar to the Action 5 Pro, up to 5 hours in most scenarios, as they say. But again, that's why you get extra batteries for these Action cameras, so that you don't have to worry about running 2, 3, 4 hours. But I love how my Action 5 Pro, I can use multiple days without charging because I only use it for clips, and the Action 6 is quite similar to that. Finally, again, the release date in the United States is November 18th. I myself will be ordering one, despite me having one Action 5 Pro and two Action 4s. Again, I use this in covering my events. I'll set these 3 cameras up in the back room of a bar to film my friends' live performances, and I could justify another angle using the Action 6. You guys might not, so if you're quite nowhere in your content creation journey, you already have the Action 5 Pro. Again, it is not required. A lot of those improvements are under the hood, meaning you might not visually see it in your footage, but again, the square format, being able to do horizontal and vertical content quite easy, better stabilization, slightly better low light. For me, those are strong features that really moves the needle in me purchasing this camera. But if you don't appreciate those types, if you don't do multiple aspect ratios of your content, maybe you can skip this version and wait another 1.5 to 2 years for the Action 7, which will probably have even more bells and whistles. Again, I'm breaking my rule and upgrading from generation to generation. I like skipping generations because I can maximize the tools that I have, but this really helps my workflow in the videos that I make, so I am getting the Action 6. A couple of more notes that I wanted to highlight. In terms of accessory, finally, DJI is now releasing a macro lens, much like the highly touted GoPro macro lens, where you can adjust the minimum focusing distance. I think this is going to run out real quick. I think people will be selling this at a premium on eBay. I hope to get one version of that myself. A lot of people's complaint about Action cameras having bigger sensors, minimum focusing distance becomes a little bit farther than normal. And it would be great for tiny cameras like this to be able to be moved extremely close to a subject for a cooler perspective, but with the not so close minimum focusing distance, even closer things becomes a little bit blurred. Having that macro lens fixes that problem. And a lot of the third-party macro lenses also have like a fixed close macro focusing distance. This new variable focusing macro lens will be a godsend for people who experiment on those types of footage. I'm not a big macro person, try to use my things in a fairly basic way, but I think this will encourage me to expand my repertoire of images. So I'm looking forward to that accessory. And again, lastly, looking at the suggested adventure combo and looking at the combo battery pack, seeing that it is backwards compatible, that is super duper great. I can keep my current triple charger, use my old batteries, but actually this adventure combo that I got is from my Action 4. So these batteries are not as high capacity as the batteries that came with the Action 5 and now the Action 6. So I might slowly also upgrade my batteries to the higher capacity ones as well. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you found this helpful, going through this thought exercise with me, whether we are purchasing the next version of DJI's Action cameras. If you haven't yet, I'd love for you guys to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, comment on the video. Let me know if you are convinced on upgrading to the DJI Osmo Action 6 or you're staying with your Action 4, Action 5, still stellar cameras, but let's further discuss. I'm also collating a little bit more information on the rumor drop of the DJI Pocket 4 closer to the end of the year, and we'll run through the same thought exercise with that camera pretty soon. With that, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in your next video, and as per usual, I hope to see you in the next of mine. Bye.